Hey y'all, welcome back to another video. So this is technically a remaster because when I was filming like the original part of this video, so for some reason Siri decided to come out of nowhere, and for some reason she also stops every single function of the iPhone as it's working. So she came up in the middle of my video and apparently my video stopped. So yeah, here we go again. But yeah, this is the story of how I started smoking and how I quit. So it all started in grade 9 when we were in line for picture day, obviously high school, and we were waiting to get our names called to go get our picture taken for our ID card. For some reason you need basically an ID to check out books at school. But anyway, moving on. So afterwards, there was like a little break or whatever outside. So a bunch of my friends, being smokers, they went out to the alley and I went with them because, well, I didn't want to be alone. First day in high school, you don't go and hang out with people you don't know. It's just something that you don't do. So I went outside with them, and one of my friends offered me a drag of her cigarette. And I was sort of hesitant at first. I was like, I don't know if I should, but why not? YOLO. And so I tried it, and immediately after I felt lightheaded. I couldn't walk in a straight line because we had to go back inside. And I had like the worst headache for a couple hours. My throat literally felt like sandpaper. Like, it was terrible. It was terrible. I smelled awful. I don't recommend it to anybody. And yeah, it was probably one of the single most worst experiences of my life. And then like 6.5 years later, I was still doing it, still asking myself why. I never did it to be cool, never did it to be fun. Cancer is not cool, by the way. Don't know why people think it is, but yeah, like it just turned into like something in my life would happen, and then I would go smoke a cigarette, and then I'd be done. And then something else would happen, and then I'd need to smoke a cigarette, and then I'd be done. So for me, it wasn't really like a need, like at least not in the same ways that it might be for other people, but it was just sort of like, it was situational for me. It was like having a best friend when I needed one, or like receiving a hug when I need it the most, or it's like taking an antidepressant. Basically, it just takes away all of the anxiety, all the stress, all of your problems just melt away for a couple minutes, and it's nice. It's really nice. But that's where my mind started to become like dependent on it, was when I started telling myself that, oh, it's not a problem, it's just a means to cope, which means there's no right or wrong answer. That's when I cut it off, because then it would have became like a tumor, and it would have, no pun intended, but it would have just stayed there forever. And I never would have come up with a why. It would have just been there. So that was about last summer, the last time and like official time that I quit. And since then I've had the most amount of energy I've had naturally. Haven't needed nearly as much coffee, despite what I've been, saying, as I used to in the past. I used to need like 5 or 6 cups in the morning, which I'm sure is over the recommended daily limit. And now, like I drink maybe 1 or 2 mugs now. I have 3 mugs of coffee now, and I'm like wired. It's insane. I have my appetite back. I have my patience and tolerance back. It's like I want to do things again. It's great, but we're on lockdown, and now that we can do things, it's like, haha, jokes. Everything's closing again. But other than that, it was, it was nice. It's nice to have extra time to just relax or clean or film or do whatever. But I am certainly grateful that I found the vaping community. How that happened, I still don't exactly remember. Furthest back I can remember me getting my first vape, like furthest thing I can remember about it, is giving my dad cash and him going into the store and then getting what I wanted. That's literally as far back as I can remember. I don't know how it became a conversation. I don't know how it became an idea or a concept. it just like poof. I think it's because my stepbrother Brandon was, you know, he was vaping at the time, and he was doing coil building, and he was doing all of his DIY vape building stuff, and I was like super interested in it for some reason. Like even when I watched him do it, I could never see myself doing it, but it was so amazingly interesting to watch, like all the tiny parts, and you know, like putting the coil together and putting the cotton in there, and it looked interesting. It's just I don't have patience for things that I think are tedious, and like doing a build like that meticulous and perfect, like that for me would be like, I would throw everything across the room in like 0.2 seconds, because when things don't go my way, I mean anyone rages, especially in video games, but when the items are tiny, nonetheless, it makes it even harder, if not impossible, you know. So for me, I would never be able to do it. I mean, I commend the people who do have the patience to do it. It is an art, it is a craft, it is a skill. I'm not denoting you. It's just one that I would never be able to pick up on, even if, like, you know, if the Da Vinci of like coil builds came up to me and was like, here's how you do it, I would still be like, huh? So yeah, no disrespect, it's just I'm too stupid to be able to do something that crafty. It also didn't really help that like the time of year in which I tried, you know, when I guess started smoking cigarettes was a little wintry. It was pretty chilly and windy, so it didn't really help with like the whole, you know, nicotine hitting you in the throat thing. And another thing that didn't help is, you know, that my dad was allergic to cigarette smoke. But I mean, I think, you know, I think in a way we all are. But I was scared, actually. Like, I was scared to go home and have like my stepmom smell it on me or something, because, well, she can do that somehow. She had an eagle nose. And like, I didn't want to be chewed out for it, because like, well, you know, I was just, you know, it's stupid. It's a cigarette, I know. But like, I was just trying new things. I was 100% curious. I wasn't going into the, like I said, I wasn't going into the with the intention of being like, this is gonna really solidify my popularity. Like I said, nobody thinks cancer is cool. Like, just saying. But you know, it was like, for me, especially in high school, it was kind of terrible social like experience for me, because like I like anyone, I had countless bullies, and you know, people that would just needlessly harass me for nothing more than a reaction which they would never receive. And like, being with my friends, but like smoking cigarettes with my friends at the same time, like, it was like a different connection, you know. Like, so for me, like, smoking became really social and like rooted in social experiences, because it, like, that habit was formed out of a social experience. So like, when I was with, like, if I was at a nightclub or whatever Medicine had, like the night after payday, you know, go me, and I would go outside, and even if it was just me and I didn't know anybody, if there was a group of smokers, I would just walk up to them and be like, hey, what's up? You know, like, if you have a cigarette in your hand and you walk up to a group of smokers, you're basically all friends already. So, you know, I would have like those interactions, but I would never really smoke on my own, because, well, it was depressing. So that way, I guess it didn't really become a habit, because I never really, you know, made it into one. I just sort of did it socially. I partook in smoking, but I wasn't like officially a smoker yet. That would only come until I started feeling sorry for myself. And boy, did I ever, because like, I was quite a chain smoker at the time, like last summer, right before I quit. Because like, I wasn't even buying like 2 or 3 packs from the store at that point. I was buying carton by carton, going through a carton in like a month, you know. So obviously for that, I also kind of had a mentality, sort of like a subconscious hidden mentality, if you will, that sort of always said, oh, well, if it hasn't done anything detrimental to you thus far, then it never will or never can. You know, come to think and find out that was extremely flawed logic, you know, obviously. everything can kill you in moderation, if we're really being nitpicky here. But that was also part of the problematic mindset that I was developing. It was almost like because smoking wasn't an issue in my life, or because I didn't see it as like, a problem, I had to like my brain had to like formulate reasons as to why it was bad, simply because, reason alone wasn't enough to convince me to quit. Awareness wasn't enough to convince me to quit. Me literally knowing exactly how it kills you still somehow wasn't enough for me to quit. So eventually, my willpower just overrode my will to give in, and I just stopped. I threw away my last empty pack almost a year ago, and I have not gone back since. Have not thought about it, haven't missed it, certainly haven't missed it, I can tell you that much. Because I know one of the questions that my dad asked me after I told my family that I had started smoking, because they hadn't found it on their own, thank God. But one of the questions that my dad had asked me was, did you start smoking because you like the taste? And I said, no, because cigarettes taste terrible. They taste like asphalt. They taste just like bad, And come to find out, my stepmom, Becky, she was like, oh, well, don't tell your dad this, but I actually used to smoke too. So maybe when he's at work, you and I can go outside and have a cigarette every once in a while. And then that even opened another door, and then I was like, well, shit. So now that there's even another, bad influence, it started turning into a cycle. And I was like, if I don't break it, no one else will. So I'm just gonna go ahead and and then I moved to Freebase. I was vaping Freebase juices for quite a while. Really, really, really delicious set of free range juices that I did have. A few of my top favorites included Legacy by Illusions Vapor, which is part of the Taste of God series. Oh, it was so good. It was like, I think it was like a peanut, oh yeah, it was a pina colada with frozen lime. It was so good though. If I would have anything to get that juice in a Salt Lake, that would be delicious, absolutely delicious. And then we had like a couple smaller tote containers full of Milkman e-juices. One of them, a couple of those were like Little Dipper, Cinnamon Twist, which was like a churro, Strawberry Cinnamon Twist, which is like a strawberry churro. There was Cookies and Cream, and yeah, there was another one. Oh, and Milky O's, which was like an Oreo one. And those were really delicious actually, but they're not selling them in Canada anymore because apparently our because our taxes here are too high. That's why. But yeah, so little sad about that. Can't get them here anymore. And I'm glad that we're still gonna have vape flavors too. They're not gonna be banned. We're not gonna only be able to choose between menthol, tobacco, and unflavored and vanilla or whatever they all are. So grateful that we're still getting flavors sticking around, because I don't know what I would do if I was only able to choose between a couple flavors. That would be absolutely terrible. That would be torture. Like that would be like going to Burger King and being like, hi, I'll get a Whopper with a Coke. And then they'd be like, oh, sorry, we only have Orange Crush. Then what's the point of going somewhere that offers selection when they can't offer you a selection? It's seems pretty easy to break down, but pretty hard for people to figure out. But nonetheless, whatever happens, things could literally change an hour from now. Brandon and I have already, basically vowed to each other that him and I are going to stock up on as many vape flavors, as many of our favorite flavors and sizes and formats, like Freebase, Salt Lake, as much of it as we can. At least, before anything changes, because like I said, it could change an hour from now. You know, they're probably gonna take away all the flavors just because I said that we're gonna get to keep them all. That's probably just my luck, but who knows? So yeah, good news to my vaping community. We're still gonna have reviews, we're still gonna have selections, and we're still gonna have videos. Like I said, you don't go to my vape folder and there's only one video available. There's a bunch of them. There's Freebase and SaltNick available. Like, it doesn't just say Freebase stuff or Nick Salt stuff. You go in there and then there's both. So yeah, selection, variety. It is kind of funny though, how I started vaping Freebase juices and now how I like almost can't vape Freebase juices. It's not because I'm like intolerant to them, because I've been vaping Freebase way longer than Nick Salts. So it's not an intolerance thing. I just think it's, I don't know, it's probably just I'm probably just picky. But some Freebase juices I can't vape at all or I die. Like for example, if I'm vaping a 15 all day, and then I go and take a drag, but like a Nick Salt, and then I go take a drag of Brandon's 6 milligram Freebase, I'll die. So, I mean, kind of funny, but yeah. I also just think it's pretty ironic that I never used to touch Nick Salts in the past, and now I'm completely fine with them. But when I was smoking cigarettes, I was also dual using Freebase juice in my stick mod at the time, but that wasn't killing me. So, I don't know. I mean, did dual use help build my tolerance to both at the same time? Who knows? Did it help me migrate over to vaping completely in the future? Probably. But I think I'm just lucky, you know, that I still have, you know, at least I have synthetic nicotine instead of the, you know, organic stuff. But I still don't use it in the same way. It's not like, oh, you know, I just lost my keys. Stress relief. Like, it's not that way. It's more of like, it's turning from a habit into something recreational. So that's good, at least. At least, like, from that point of view, it's not being seen, like, not nearly as much being seen as a need. And now it's just being seen as, like this to me is more of an accessory, is more of a personal accessory than like a tool, or like, you know, like obviously its main goal is to get people to stop using cigarettes, which in that aspect it has already succeeded. But at this point, at, you know, serving its purpose, having served its purpose, it's more or less just like becoming, like I said, like a personal accessory, just something to carry with you, not necessarily something you need to carry with you. Not like in the same way like your phone, or, you know, like you don't take it with you in the same way you take other things with you. It's just something that you see and you're like, oh sure, I'll have some. But it's not something you see and you're just like, oh god, I need it now. Like, I have such a migraine. It's not like that, you know. Withdrawal is not the same at all. It's not on the same level. That being said, do be careful when you're vaping SaltNick through sub-ohm devices like I am, because of the high concentration. Taking really big drags through sub-ohm tanks or devices, however you want to put it, can actually give people possible nicotine poisoning, possibly. So do be wary of that if you are vaping a higher nicotine level SaltNick, like 30, 35, that it might affect you differently. It might make you sick, it might make you nauseous or a little bit lightheaded. So if any of those symptoms occur, just don't vape for a little bit. Also remember that the higher concentration does also mean that you don't need to hit it that often. You know, hit it. So yeah, that's basically it. Stay hydrated, because Nick Salts can also cause dehydration, dry mouth, dry throat, whatever, you know, fun things. But yeah, that's about it, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me today for this video. If you enjoyed it, you already know what to do. I like and love all of you. Stay safe and happy, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.